I think happiness is something that waits for me somewhere, like a big shiny prize at the end of a long hallway, and all I have to do is grow tall enough to reach it. Right now, I'm small. Not tiny small, but still the kind of small where grown-ups pat you on the head and forget you have your own thoughts, and maybe that's why I spend so much time imagining who I'll be when this smallness finally ends. I picture myself living in a house that smells like pancakes all the time, with warm floors and a huge window I can sit under when it rains, so it feels like the sky is visiting me. I always tell myself, once I have that house, I'll be happy. Once I buy it, my life will feel finished in a good, satisfying way, like putting the last piece into a puzzle. I don't know why houses feel like that to me, maybe because every grown-up I know talks about them like they're treasure chests. I'm 8, and I share a room with my cousin on weekends because he stays with us sometimes, and he kicks in his sleep, and I keep thinking, okay, when I grow up, no one will kick me at night. When I grow up, the hallway light won't bother me. When I grow up, I'll get to choose everything, even which cereal I want, even if it's the expensive one Mom shakes her head at. I guess that's another thing I believe. Grown-ups get to choose. They don't have to ask permission, they just decide. So I imagine myself deciding big things, like who I'll marry and how tall they'll be, and whether we'll dance in the kitchen or only in the living room so we don't bump into the table. I think, when I get married, I'll be happy. That's how the movies make it look, and the adults too, even though they look tired a lot. They still talk about weddings like they were the best day ever. So I write my name and someone else's last name in the margins of my notebook sometimes, and it makes me feel warm, like I'm practicing for something important. Some nights I lie in bed and imagine waking up older, just skipping the middle parts. I see myself with keys in my hand, house keys, car keys, maybe even office keys. And I think the jingling sound means I finally made it. Like the world will hear the keys and say, "Oh, he's grown now, let him through." It's funny, because I don't actually know what grown-up happiness feels like, but I pretend I do. I build little scenes in my head. Me coming home from work, me sitting on a couch that's all mine, me opening the door to someone who smiles like they're glad I exist, and I tell myself that's the moment. That's when I'll know it happened. But then I also get scared sometimes. Mostly at night, when the shadows look weird and I hear my mom on the phone whispering adult problems. Bills, repairs, things breaking, people disappointing her. I wonder if happiness goes away when you get older, but then I shake that thought off, because it doesn't feel fair. I don't want to believe that grown-ups lost something I haven't found yet. I want to believe happiness is waiting patiently, like a friend saving me a seat, so I make promises to myself the way kids do, with full confidence and zero proof. I say, when I grow up, I won't rush through mornings. I'll have time for long breakfasts and long hugs. I'll buy flowers for my house even if they die fast. I'll marry someone who laughs at silly things and doesn't forget birthdays. I'll never be too tired for the people I love. I'll take days off just because the sky looks nice. I'll remember what it feels like to be me right now, curious, hopeful, full of ideas that don't fit on a single page. I'll keep everything that's good about being a kid and add all the cool stuff from being an adult, like choosing my bedtime and having my own fridge where no one steals the last yogurt. Deep down, I think being happy means having all the pieces lined up. The house, the job, the person, the moment when everything clicks and stays clicked. I don't know what adults mean when they say life is complicated. It doesn't seem complicated from here. It seems like a big staircase, and I'm at the bottom, and happiness is at the top holding a sign with my name on it. All I have to do is climb, one day at a time. And when I finally reach it, when everything I dream about becomes real, that's when I'll be happy. I'm sure of it. I don't know why, but I am. Maybe because being a kid means believing the best things are still waiting, and none of them can disappear before you get to them. Maybe that's the magic part of this age. Thinking the future is a promise, not a guess. And I guess I'm holding that promise as tightly as I can.
I didn't notice when exactly I stopped looking for clouds that looked like animals and started looking only at clocks, but I know it happened quietly, the way evenings turn into nights without asking your permission. I spent so many years chasing that big, shining moment I'd imagined as a boy, the day when everything aligned just right. the day that would finally let me breathe and say, "There it is, happiness." I thought it would arrive with a key turning in the lock of my own house, or with a ring on my finger, or with a job that made people nod approvingly when I told them what I did. For a long time, I believed life was a straight path toward that moment, and every step was supposed to bring me a little closer. But the steps turned into routines, and the routines turned into years, and I kept waiting for the feeling to catch up. The first time I realized I was running instead of living was small. The morning I rushed past my wife in the kitchen without even noticing she'd gotten a new haircut. She laughed about it later, but I felt something strange inside me, like a tiny apology that never had words. I remember thinking, "It's fine, I'll make up for it this weekend." But weekends filled themselves with laundry, errands, calls I needed to return, promises I kept postponing. I told myself I'd slow down once we moved into a bigger place, then once we paid off the mortgage, then once my kids grew a little older. Every stage had another stage behind it, like stairs I never reached the top of. Somewhere along the way, I traded attention for speed. I didn't mean to, it just seemed practical at the time. You tell yourself you'll savor things later when life gets easier, but life doesn't get easier. It just changes shape. I remember sitting at my desk late one night, papers everywhere, the lamp buzzing in that tired way old lamps do, and realizing I couldn't remember the last slow moment I'd had that didn't feel stolen or guilty. Not joyful, just slow. I thought happiness was a finish line, so I didn't recognize it when it passed me in small forms. My daughter pulling my hand to show me her drawing, the smell of fresh bread on a Tuesday morning, the quiet way my wife leaned on my shoulder during a movie we'd seen a dozen times. Those moments didn't look like the promise I'd made myself as a boy. They weren't grand, they weren't final, they didn't announce themselves. And because of that, I walked right by them. I walked by so much, I kept thinking the real happiness would come later, after I achieved something bigger, something worthy of celebration. But later kept moving further away, like a horizon you think you're approaching until you realize it's been retreating this whole time. My compromises weren't dramatic. They were small, skipping vacations, canceling dinners, telling my son I'd play with him after I finished this one thing, and watching his face dim just a little when he heard it. I became someone who believed he was always on the brink of the good part, never understanding that the good part was already here, quietly offering itself over and over. I think the saddest part isn't the things I lost. It's the things I never even noticed enough to lose properly. The nights when my family laughed without me because I was in another room working. The invitations I declined. The mornings I hurried through instead of sharing toast at the table. They're not dramatic regrets, just empty shelves where moments should have been. Now my life is quieter. Not peaceful quiet, just spacious. The kind of spacious you don't ask for. I have time now, more than I ever had. But it feels different. It doesn't stretch. It settles. My hands tremble when I try to cook. My knees complain when I stand too long, and when I walk outside I have to stop to catch my breath, though I tell myself I'm just admiring the view. Maybe I am. Maybe that's the one thing I learned too late, that happiness wasn't the house or the marriage or the job. It wasn't the moment when everything clicked. It was the small, unremarkable pieces I kept stepping over, because they didn't match the picture I'd drawn as a child. I used to think I'd feel it all at once, like a switch turning on. But happiness was never a switch. It was crumbs on the counter after a late night snack and warm socks from the laundry and my wife humming off key while she watered the plants. I thought I'd arrive at happiness someday. Instead, I passed it hundreds of times without knowing. And now I sit here, remembering promises I made before I understood how life really moves. Slow, then suddenly fast, then slow again. I don't regret my whole life. That wouldn't be fair. There were good years, even beautiful ones. But I do regret the way I kept waiting for a grand arrival, not realizing the small joys didn't need an invitation. If I could talk to that boy who thought happiness was a point on the map, I wouldn't correct him. I'd just sit with him a minute longer. Let him tell me about his future house and his kitchen dancing. And maybe I'd say something like, keep noticing things, even when you're tired. Not as advice, not as wisdom. Just as a reminder, I wish someone had whispered to me before the years began their quiet sprint. I used to think I was running toward happiness. Turns out I was running past it. And the strange part is, it wasn't hiding. I just wasn't looking where it lived. I don't have a neat ending to offer. Life rarely gives those out. I only know that if you're somewhere in the middle of your own sprint, still thinking the real happiness waits a little further down the road, you might have more chances than I did to look around instead of ahead. I'm not here to tell you what to choose or how to live. I wouldn't dare. I just wanted to lay my story on the table the way you lay out old photographs, not to teach anything, just to show what was there and what wasn't, and what slipped through my fingers while I was busy aiming for the horizon. Maybe you'll hear something in it. Maybe you won't. Either way, your road is still stretching in front of you and mine is mostly quiet now. I guess all I can say is this. If you ever feel the urge to wait for a better moment, maybe pause for a second and check if the moment you already have is asking to be lived. The rest is yours.